Good morning, River Tree family and guests. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. From my living room to yours, I am incredibly grateful that you are here and that we have this opportunity to connect with each other, even if it's in this very different way than what we are used to. I want to thank you for leaning into that and for making the most of that. With the new set of restrictions, we have had to once again adapt to how we do things. And so with the stay at home in place, we've decided that was the best thing for our team to do. And so our worship team has been hard at work, and we've had different members of the team that are recording songs from their home to lead us in worship. And so in a few minutes, when we get to that time of worship, you're going to experience worship that is being led by a couple of different people from their homes. And so I think it's going to be a really neat experience. Nick and Dee Dee are going to be up here in a minute from their living room to share some announcements, but there are two announcements that I wanted to just make sure that I made you aware of that we didn't have in place when they recorded theirs. The first is that next week we're going to have an experiment in that we are going to take communion together from a distance. And so what that means is that I actually need you to do just a little bit of legwork this week. If you have the opportunity and you go to the grocery store, grab some grape juice and some bread. If you don't have the opportunity to and you're not going to go otherwise, don't make a special trip just to get those items. Use the closest things that you have in your house. But what I want to ask is that next Sunday morning, when you get ready to gather with us, that you would just take a minute and prepare those things, have the bread ready and have the juice ready, and we're going to take some communion together. And I think it's going to be a really neat way to commune, even though we are apart. The other thing is this, that we understand that we have River Tree families that are hurting in this time. And we have actually taken and made an effort as the leadership team to be in contact with as many River Tree families in a week as we can. And through that, we're discovering needs. And some of those needs we're able to meet easily. Some of them we need some more resources. And so we are starting a new fund that we are calling Gas to Groceries. And here's the bottom line, that most of us aren't driving as far as we used to, if at all. And so we're likely saving some money on gas. We have other families whose jobs have been pared back and whose income has been lost as a result of what's going on. And what we want to ask is if you would consider taking maybe some of that money that you're not spending on maybe going out to eat now or on groceries and give it so that we can create a pool to help River Tree families as they have financial needs. Now, we know that there's likely some government help coming, but it's going to be still several weeks until those funds are made available, and these are immediate needs. And so what we've done is we have set up a fund called Gas to Groceries. Now, we're all using the text-to-give system right now, where you can text your gifts to 84321, and you make those donations to River Tree. What we want to ask is if you want to make a donation to the Gas to Groceries fund, type in the letters G, and then the number 2, and then the letter G, G2G, and then the amount that you want to give to Gas to Groceries. And then our system will make sure that it gets into that fund. And so I just want to thank you for being generous and helping us care for our River Tree family. Awesome. With that said, I'm going to turn things over to Nick and Dee Dee.
Good morning, River Tree.
Good morning.
It is Sunday. It is church day. That's how you can keep track of days these days, if you're kind of at home, is every day is kind of Saturday, except for on Sundays you go to church. I hear retired people say that a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not.
Yeah, you need to hang out with more old people like I do.
Apparently.
You always joke that I have a bunch of old best friends.
You do.
So anyway, we're glad that you're joining us this morning. We want to go through a couple of quick announcements. Has anybody been watching The Voice?
Yes, I have.
So they have a new judge this year. Who is that new judge?
Nick Jonas.
Nick Jonas is the new judge. And the other judges have been making fun of him because he's been taking notes, during the thing. So I'm going to do that today because his name's Nick, and he calls them Nick's Notes. So I will be taking notes for the visual learners. So while you do announcements, I can be the visual embellishment of those announcements.
So when Nick Jonas takes notes, it's not like he takes super complex notes. Usually it's like
stage.
one word.
Yeah.
Like song.
Yeah. Good.
Music.
Force.
Force?
I don't know. It seems like there was some flavor. I don't know. There was something. But anyway, so we're going to go through the announcements. And Andy actually told us we could be funny. But apparently that means we weren't funny last week. I don't know.
I don't know.
Is that what that means? Feel free to be funny.
Do you know any good jokes?
Not off the top of my head. Let's get on with announcements.
Okay. Let's do it.
So anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so the first announcements is Foundations Level 1 and 2 and 3 are all starting April 15th. And you can get more information and register online by going to rivertree.church/foundation. Foundations.
April 15th, 1, 2, and 3. Next notes.
Let me see.
Boom.
That's wow.
Okay, so
Impressive.
here we go.
Okay. Also, do you need to see people other than your immediate family? Yes, I do.
I don't even know what you're talking about. You go for walks without me
I do.
and without the kids?
Yep.
Okay, so anyway, if you want to connect with people from the church, there are several opportunities to still do that,
That's our dog.
even though we are not meeting in person. So, when are those opportunities?
Those opportunities.
I want to make sure I write them down.
All right. Wednesdays at 9 and 7.
Yep.
Oh, and you don't want to show them your notes?
Oh,
So they're not overwhelmed by
Wednesdays
them.
at 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. you can get on Zoom. I believe those are with Andy, Pastor Andy.
But you find the links on the Facebook page and then you go to Zoom.
And when else is there?
Thursdays at 11.
Thursdays at 11 a.m.
You wrote that one really fast.
I know. It's amazing.
And then the last one is Fridays at 11 a.m. Can you write that?
Yep. Fridays
Ooh.
at 11 a.m.
All right. So you go to facebook.com/rivertreecommunity, and that is where you find the links to go to those face-to-face, and you can talk to other people. It's not just you watching.
Yeah, like you are right now. You're watching us, and you can't talk back to us, but when you log into these, you can chat, and it's direct and in real time and awesome. So yeah. So, and anytime you're looking for any information throughout this whole process that we're going through right now, always go to the Facebook page, go to the website. There's always going to be lots of links there as to what's going on.
Yes. All right. Third one. Do you have a need? Is there something that you or your family is in need of during this time? We need each other more than ever right now. And so if you have any needs, please
If you
get
need
a
somebody
hold of
to
Andy.
run an errand for you, if you need somebody to rake your leaves, I don't know, maybe, yeah. Any need that you might have, you can reach out to Andy at rivertree.church, hashtag Nick's Notes. And if you're wondering who Andy is, I drew him too. Oh, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me show you a picture of Andy. Andy.
It looks just like him.
I know. You might have to put some imagination into it. So anyway, any kind of need you might have, even if it seems small, even if it seems big, don't be afraid to reach out and let Andy ask. He'll kind of filter those through the leaders of the church.
Yeah. So the last thing is text to give. You can still text to give. We encourage you to still text to give. And you just text, like when you're sending a text message, you write 84321. 84321.
What was
In
that?
the 84321. You got that written down?
I do. It's windy. I should be looking at the screen more. I feel like
Yeah.
they're seeing the top of my hat. 84321, text to give. It's real easy
feel
to
like
set
you
it
want
up.
it down more.
If you
Yeah.
haven't set it up yet, it's easy. Text the amount you want to give to 84321. There's also instructions for this on our website.
So instead of typing in like mom or Nick or something, you type in 84321 and then you just type in the number. Like if you want to give if you wanted to give like $4,000 or $4 or whatever, you just type that in and then you hit send and then it just sets it up.
Yep, and if you've set it up before, it goes automatically. It says thank you. We'll send you a receipt. If you haven't set it up before, it prompts you to set something up. So we want y'all to have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Take care of each other. And one final announcement. Have a good week, everybody.
Bye.
His love endures forever, for he is good. trust in you. With all I am, I live to see your kingdom come. And in my heart, I pray you'd let your will be done. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home, I will trust in you. I will live to love you. I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in awe of you. Yeah. You are the voice that called the universe to be. You are the whisper in my heart that speaks to me. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home, I will trust in you. I will live to love you. I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in awe of you. Yeah. You alone are God of all. You alone are worthy, Lord. And with all I am, my soul will bless your name. You alone are God of all. You alone are worthy, Lord. And with all I am, my soul will bless your name. I will live to love you. I will live to bring you praise. I will live a child in awe of you. The greatest love that anyone could ever know, that overcame the cross and grave to find my soul. Until I see you face to face, and grace amazing takes me home, I will trust in you.
As we lift up our hands, will you meet us here as we call on your name? Will you meet us here? We have come to this place to worship you, God of mercy and grace. It is you we adore. It is you our praises are for. Only you the heavens declare. It is you. It is you. Holy, holy is our God Almighty. Holy, holy is His name alone. Holy, holy is our will you meet us here? We have come to this place to worship you, God of mercy and grace. It is you we adore. It is you praises are for. Only you heavens declare. It is you. It is you. Holy, holy is our God Almighty. Holy, holy is His name alone. Yeah. Holy, holy is our God Almighty. Holy, holy is His name alone. As we lift up our hands, as we call on your name, will you meet us in this place by your mercy and grace? As we lift up our hands, as we call on your name, will you meet us in this place by your mercy and grace? It is you we adore. It is you. It is you. Holy, holy is our God Almighty. Holy, holy is His name alone. Yeah. Holy, holy is our God Almighty. Holy, holy is His name alone. It is you we adore. It is you, only you.
So I am joined for my message by our dog Bristol. He doesn't do very much during the day. In fact, this is pretty much where he spends all of his days. So he's going to be my co-host for the sermon this morning. I remember when I was getting ready to graduate from college and get married, I realized that there were lots of things that I took for granted in my parents' house that I didn't own. I didn't own a vacuum cleaner. I didn't own a blender. I didn't own plates or silverware, any of those things that you just need to have in order to operate your house. And that was just on my mind as I was going through my senior year of college, and getting ready for a wedding was also this idea that I'm also getting ready for life after the wedding. And I remember seeing an online ad for a set of knives. Now, the way that the ad was created was to make you think you were getting an amazing deal on a set of knives. And I don't remember the exact amounts, but something like these knives were worth $150 and you were getting them for $10. And in my mind, I thought that sounds like a good deal and I'm going to need some knives. So I ordered this set of knives. And whenever I order something online, there's always that period between when you order and when it shows up on your door where there's this little season of expectation where there's this little excitement where you're waiting for your package to be delivered. You check the tracking, and if you happen to be home during that day, you're looking for the UPS guy or the FedEx guy or the US mail, however it's coming, you're looking for them to come. And I remember getting that package with those knives. And as soon as I picked up the package, I knew that they weren't going to be what I had thought they'd be. The package was just too light. There wasn't any weight to it. And I opened them up, and sure enough, they were the cheapest set of knives that I've ever held in my life, and they didn't hold up, and they weren't good, and they were just trash. There are times when we have hope that something will be one way, and then it just ends up being something different. We tend to hope that the year that we experience this year will be better than the year we experienced last year, and that next year will be better than the year we're experiencing now. And yet we've gotten into this year, and it isn't turning out the way that any of us really thought that it would. What do we do with that? What do we do with this idea of hope? What does it mean to hope? What does it mean to be conscientious about the things that we hope in? So our culture and our society tends to have things that we hope in, and we tend to go through phases. So back in the 1950s, there was a phase where hope was placed in modernization and in technology and the early computers, and post-World War II, there was this cultural sense of hope. But what often happens is the things we put our hope in tend to have two different sides to them. And so you ended up on the one hand with advancements, but the other hand, you ended up with the Cold War. You ended up with technology where we could literally destroy each other, and realizing that had brought a new reality that wasn't healthy. And so we shift from that to a cultural sense of hope in the 60s in each other and in relationship, and it comes out in the movement of the hippie movement, and give love a chance, give peace a chance, and all of those kinds of things. And there's this collective sense of hope placed in the goodness of people. You end up in 70s with this struggle of where should we put our hope in, and finding that we can't put our hope in different things, and they let us down. In fact, in the late 70s, there's a movie that's released that most of us know about now if we haven't actually seen it, and it's the first Star Wars movie. Star Wars Episode 4, which was the first one. We can get into that some other time. But the actual title of the movie is A New Hope. In the 80s, we put our hope in bad haircuts. In the 90s, we put our hope in the internet. And in the 2000s, I would say we put our hope even more strongly in political figures than we have in the past. We have lots of different things that we have put our hope in collectively. And one by one, we've seen those things let us down. I want to go to the book of Joshua this morning. And I want to look at a story that takes place. This is just as the people of Israel are about to take the land that God had promised to them. And the first obstacle, the first city that is in their way of moving in, is the city of Jericho. And you may be familiar with the story of the Battle of Jericho. You might not be. Maybe it rings a little bit of a bell, but Jericho was a walled city. And this is a battle where God told his people, I don't want you to just go in by military force. What I want you to do is I want you to walk around the wall. And so he has them walk around the wall once a day for several days. And then they walk around it multiple times on the last day. And they yell, and the walls come down. God provides them victory. This takes place before that battle. And I think something we need to understand is often when I've heard people talk about the Battle of Jericho, the way that I heard it and understood it was that God helped the Israelites do something they couldn't have done for themselves. That the Israelites would not have been able to win the battle without God taking those walls down. But here's something I want us to understand. So archaeologists have found the remains of the city of Jericho. And it's not that big. We tend to put our ideas of cities and the size of cities on top of the biblical stories, but cities were much smaller. In fact, the city of Jericho is probably only about 9 acres inside of the wall. To give you a point of reference for that, if you've been to our property, River Tree's property on Lansing Ave, between Lansing Ave and the woods that are on the east side of our property, that big area that's all grass is probably just shy of 9 acres. I mean, that's how big this city was, is that big grassy area right there. And there were probably only about 2,000 people that lived in the city. Now, what would happen in an ancient city when, especially if you had a wall, you were kind of a big deal. So Jericho is kind of a big deal, and people that didn't live in the city would run to the city when an invading army was coming. So you have the Israelites that are invading, and so other people would have gone into the city. So let's say maybe the city's at 3,000 people. But the people in the city are worried and afraid. The people of Jericho are afraid of the Israelites. Israel sends a couple of men in to spy. And they end up at the home of a woman named Rahab. And Rahab protects them. She keeps them safe. Even when people come looking for them, she hides them. And then before they leave, Rahab asks for them to keep her and her family safe when the battle happens. And this is the instructions that they give her. This is from Joshua chapter 3, verse 17. It says, before they left, the men told her, we will be bound by the oath we have taken only if you follow these instructions. When we come into the land, you must leave this scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you let us down. And all your family members, your father, mother, brothers, and all your relatives must be here inside the house. If they go out into the streets and are killed, it will not be our fault, but if anyone lays a hand on people inside this house, we will accept responsibility for their death. If you betray us, however, we're not bound by this oath in any way. What I want us to notice here is actually the sign that is used to help them know which house is Rahab's. It says that they gave her a scarlet rope and told her to hang it from the window. Now, the word that is translated rope here is the Hebrew word tikva. And tikva means rope, but it is also the Hebrew word that is used, or one of the Hebrew words that is used for the word hope. Now, I don't have any rope laying around my house right now. I went looking, and the closest thing I could find is that it was big enough to be seen on camera as this extension cord. So I need you to pretend with me that this is a piece of rope and not a piece of extension cord. So I think there's something really neat about this idea that tikva means rope and it means hope. That hope really is a question of what rope are you holding on to? In fact, there are a couple of other places in Scripture. I mean, there's lots of places where this word tikva shows up, but here are just a couple of them. In the book of Ruth, there's a woman named Naomi, and she's losing hope. And this is what she says to her daughters-in-law. She tells them, return home, my daughters. I'm too old to have another husband. Even if I thought there was still hope for me, even if I thought there was still tikva for me, even if I thought there was still something to hold on to. Jeremiah 29:11. This one might be one that you're more familiar with. You may have heard this before. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not disaster, to give you a future and a hope and a tikva and a rope to hold on to. In this season of uncertainty, I know that I have struggled with hope. I don't know about you, but I've had good days and I've had bad days. We talked a couple of weeks ago about not worrying and praying, and there have been times when I've been able to do that and lean into praying and receiving God's peace. There's other times where I've let my thoughts spiral. I've done well sometimes, I've done poorly some other times. What do we do in these moments when it's hard to hold on to that rope of hope? I think the first thing is that we need to trust the hope maker. We need to ask ourselves the question, what rope are we really holding on to? We all have ropes that we hold on to in life. We have employers that provide income. We have government that provides resources and services. We have different people in our lives that help us in different ways. And in this moment, what's happened is we've experienced some of these ropes becoming uncertain. And we have to ask ourselves, what rope was I really holding on to? Because to hold on to the rope of hope that comes from God is different than to hold on to all of these other ropes. Those other things can still provide for us and help us. But the fact is that other ropes can break. Other ropes can fray and fall away. And that's why it's really important to ask this question: what is our tikva? What is our rope of hope? It may be that you've been walking in relationship with God for a long time. It may be that you've turned to these videos and these sources of hope during this time because your other ropes have fallen away and you don't know what to do. And I want to just invite you to hold on to this rope of hope that God offers. Now, here's the thing. That can be easier said than done. How do we do that? How do you hold on to this rope of hope? I mentioned that I've had good days and bad days, and I've got two thoughts for you in this. But before we get into those, I want us to understand one thing, that because I think this principle is something that surrounds all of this. I think that hope gives birth to hope. Hope gives birth to hope. When we experience things that are filled with hope, it instills hope in us. When we give things and do things that create hope, it instills hope in other people. Hope gives birth to hope. On the other hand, chaos gives birth to chaos. And we experienced this with toilet paper in the last couple of weeks. Everybody sees on social media that toilet paper is running out, so everybody runs to the store and buys toilet paper, and the problem gets compounded. Hope gives birth to hope, and chaos gives birth to chaos. So with that understanding, I think there's two things that we can do that can help us. The first is that we can be consumers of hope. We can be consumers of hope. We can choose where we turn our attention. And I've learned in this season that I have to change some of my patterns and habits of where I give attention. So one of my patterns was, as it was getting towards bedtime, one of the ways I would wind down after we tucked the kids into bed is I would hop on my iPad and I'd look at some news and I'd look at some social media, and that was just a way to wind down. It didn't take long in this new normal to realize that's a really poor way to wind down these days. And so I had to change what I was consuming. So obviously I'm a pastor, and one of my go-tos to try to help you in this season is to tell you to turn to God's word. Here's a place you say, where do I start? Here's a place. So there's a resource called Bible Gateway, BibleGateway.com. You just go there in your web browser. Bible Gateway, I use it on a very, very regular basis. I probably use it almost every single day. And it has lots of different translations of the Bible that are in there, and it has a search feature. And what you can do is you can go into that search feature and you can search for any word, and it will bring up every time in the Bible that word is used. So for instance, you can go there and you can type in the word hope. I did it this morning. In fact, this is the New Living Translation of the Bible. In the New Living Translation, the word hope, the English word hope, shows up 190 times. So a way that you could engage with this is to go to Bible Gateway, search up the word hope, and you could just start maybe every day reading a couple of those passages. Maybe write a passage of hope on a sticky note for the day and put it somewhere around your house, or put multiple sticky notes. We can become consumers of God's words of hope. There's other ways that this plays out too. So we're finding ourselves with more free time. And let's say you go to your bookcase and there are these two book options. So this book is called World War Z. It is a book about the zombie apocalypse. It is fiction. I've read it. It's kind of a fun book. It's not the book that I would recommend reading in this season. Let's say you've got another book, just another book that I happened to grab off of my shelf by a random author. A book like this would be another one that would be a good one to lean into. And actually, self-promotion over. Here's another book that I really would recommend during this season. This is a book called Reclaiming Hope. Reclaiming Hope, Thriving in the Promises of God. It's written by a friend of mine named Ed Love. Ed and I have known each other for years. He now serves as the director of church multiplication for the Wesleyan Church. But listen to some of these chapter titles. When I Wonder If Hope Exists, When Progress Doesn't Work, when leaving isn't the answer, when my world falls apart, when I find myself in despair, I think as I was glancing through this again, this today, I just thought, man, this would be a good book to read. It's Reclaiming Hope by Ed Love. You can get it on Amazon. You go and type in both of those, Reclaiming Hope and Ed Love, and you might have to look for a book that looks like this, and you can get yourself a copy. But we can choose to be consumers of hope. When you get on Netflix, what do you choose to watch? I've been watching in my trending now on Netflix, the videos that most people are watching. I noticed that pandemic and outbreak have been two of the big ones in the last couple of weeks. And I'll be honest, maybe not the best choices right now. Now, I'm not saying that you ignore the news. I'm not saying that you bury your head in the sand, but I am saying that if we want to be people of hope, we've got to be consumers of hope. That hope gives birth to hope and chaos gives birth to chaos. And if you're struggling with hope, maybe you need to step away from chaos for a while. We can be consumers of hope, but we can also be producers of hope. So we can be people that pass on hope. You can pass on hope in your home. What words do you say? What are the words that come out of your mouth? Are they words of hope or are they words of chaos? When you post things to social media, do you post things that will give birth to hope, or do you post things that will give birth to chaos? I know we've tried to engage our family in this as we've found out about needs. We found out about a mom who had young kids at home, and she had just sent out word that she was having trouble keeping them occupied. And so we asked our kids, hey, what are some of the games that you don't play anymore? Her kids are younger than ours, and so we put together a package of games and of crafts, and then we piled the whole family in the car because everybody needs to get out of the house for a little bit right now in a safe way, and so we piled everybody in the car, just drove them to their house, and in kind of the new way of doing things, we set them on the porch and waved through the window and left, but we were able to be producers of hope, and that brought about hope in the hearts and minds of our kids and of their family. What are the ways that you can produce hope? So my hope is that this week that you would consume hope and that you would produce hope. I want to thank you so much for gathering with us online this week. I do want to invite you to join us in our online hangouts that we have created, because we know that we all need community, we all need other people, and it's hard to find these days. And so you can go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/rivertreecommunity. And we have gatherings that are happening Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. And we have gatherings on Thursday and Friday at 11 a.m. And those are just spaces for you to be able to hang out, interact with people, and find someone who will pray for you. And so we want to invite you to do that. We would love to see you in those spaces. And also, if you have a need, or if you know of a need that the church could help with, please, please, please reach out. My email address is andy@rivertree.church. We love you, and we'll see you next week.